Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of the S&S Football Podcast. I'm joined once again by Morgan. Morgan, do you want to say hello to everyone?
All right, guys.
Yep, so Morgan is back. I'm back. We're here to talk to you mainly now about the Premier League. The international break is over. We did preview the games in the last episode at the end of it. But this week we're going to go over a few of the key games that we both felt should have a mention, and then also we'll look forward to a few games coming up tomorrow, as is being recorded on Thursday, and of course the weekend. So Morgan, I guess there's no better place to start than the early kickoff on Saturday, which was Newcastle at home to Chelsea, and obviously Chelsea come out 2-0 winners. What was your thoughts on the performance from Chelsea?
I thought Chelsea were brilliant. I think it was a case of Newcastle being really poor, playing a Chelsea side who are banging form, and it just wasn't a match. Like I've said on the pod before, I've got a mate of mine who's a Newcastle fan, and he was fuming with the performance. He said it's a typical Steve Bruce performance, just no creativity, lack of ideas. Thing is, when you play against a team like Chelsea that have the attacking prowess, I like to use that word a lot, but attacking prowess that they have and the players, I mean, Werner should have scored. It could have been 3 or 4-0, to be honest. It was a routine win for Chelsea, and I do worry about Newcastle because it just doesn't seem like there's a good environment around the club. You know, at the moment, obviously, Mike Ashley taking the Premier League to court about the whole takeover thing, but it just doesn't seem like there's much of a bright cloud at Newcastle right now. Seems like the performances on the pitch are quite dire, but then again, when you got Steve Bruce as your manager, as a Villa fan, knowing the type of football that he brings, I think Newcastle will be okay this season, but for me, it was just far too easy for Chelsea, and I think they paid way too much respect to that Chelsea side. You know, you shouldn't be paying respect like that to Chelsea. Yeah, they're a good side, but if you want to win football matches, you've got to go and attack them. So, yeah, look, easy win for Chelsea in this game.
Yeah, no, I think definitely Chelsea had it very easy. I think, like I said, Werner got Abraham got on the score sheet as well. But they're looking dangerous. You know, everything's sort of starting to gel. I know they were missing Pulisic, who's obviously injured at the minute. But in terms of their attacking options, they're all gelling. Ziyech has come in off of an injury and gelled. Defensively, they're looking better. So they're looking a real force, and their league position speaks for that. But like you mentioned within Newcastle, and I take this back to when we played them. That was the ideal time for Newcastle to really basically put Ollie in a coffin and arguably give him the sack if they had beaten us in that game. And watching the game, I know we went 1-0 down after a minute because there was a deflection off Luke Shaw from a cross. But in terms of the rest of the game, United had it pretty routine. Like we were basically all over them. I think they had one other chance where Maximin crossed it. Wilson got the end of it. De Gea made a fantastic save. But apart from that, they were really poor. And I know we won 4-1, and 3 of them goals were like in the last 5 minutes. But I don't think the scoreline really, like, it seemed what the game was about. They didn't really come and attack us. And it always seemed like it was a matter of time that United were going to score. It was just whether they could score. And then once Bruno scored, and I think Wan-Bissaka scored, that was it. I mean, that was game anyway. And obviously Rashford finished it up. But with Newcastle, I mean, I've been watching a few reactions, and the thing Steve Bruce said after games, especially against us, is he said that we were naive. You know, it's not the stuff you want to be hearing if you're a Newcastle fan. I mean, it's such a difficult one for them because I think with Newcastle as well as previously, they've had not the excuse, but they've had the reason to say, well, look, we haven't even been backed. Our net spend is in the mud. You know, we're not getting the resources in to help us push on. But this season, they've got in Wilson, they've got in Lewis, they've got in Fraser, who's free, and they've got in Hendrick. They're a full, really good Premier League players there. And they've got St. Maximin as well. John Joe Shelby's a good midfielder as well. it's just something just does not seem to be right in terms of how they're playing, because they've clearly got the resources there to play good football and win football matches. It's just, is it Steve Bruce? I think it is a lot of it. And, like you mentioned, having him at Villa, it didn't seem like, even when he come in after Rafa, I mean, I remember looking and thinking, oh my word, how can you get rid of Rafa Benitez and bring in a guy who's managing Sheffield Wednesday in the Championship? But then, to be fair to him, I think he had a better league finish than Rafa. So you've got to give him credit for that. However,
Yeah,
now it's sort of like, well, is there a style here? What's happening with Newcastle? Because they did look clueless against us, and I think against Chelsea as well. It was just another easy performance. It was, as soon as Chelsea score, that's it. The game's done, really. And Newcastle don't really have a lot to offer in terms of how they play. But if you look at their options, they do have a lot to offer. So, yeah, good one for Chelsea, in my opinion. But like I said, Newcastle, I think, gave it to them a little bit, definitely.
yeah. Chelsea do look the real deal. I think too many people were focusing on how bad Newcastle were. I think Chelsea were excellent, and they do look serious title contenders. And at the start of the season, I was one to criticise their performances. The 3-3 draw against Southampton at home, the 3-3 draw against West Brom, two really disappointing results. But since then, they've really got their act together, and that team is really, really gelling nicely. And I think Chelsea will challenge this season. And at the moment, I'm going to be honest, they are looking a really, really strong force at the moment. You look at the depth they have as well in that squad. We talk about Liverpool and teams like Spurs not really having the depth this season. It could be Chelsea's year. They've got the depth, they've got the quality, they've got the players now. They seem to have sorted the defence out for them, touch wood. So, yeah, look, it's looking really, really impressive for Chelsea this season, and hopefully Lampard can get his first bit of major silverware with Chelsea.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the main issue I have with Chelsea this season. I think I've mentioned it before. They needed to bring in all them players, but the case was, could they all gel quickly, and could they really work together? And I think in the early weeks it didn't really look like they could. I mean, Havertz, I don't think he's really hit the ground running yet, but obviously he's been, he just had COVID as well, so he's had that. Obviously, Thiago Silva took a bit of time to get up to fitness. Ziyech has been injured. Pulisic has been there, now is injured. So obviously a lot of chop and changing. Werner starting out wide is, that was a big eyebrow raiser, especially in a few games. But, it's paying off at the minute. So, look, Chelsea are a real force. There's no need to butter up. They're a real force. They can win the league. Like I said, if we might as well, speaking about Chelsea, we might as well talk about their game this weekend as well. And I think that can have a huge decider, not only in the fact that it's a London derby between Tottenham and Chelsea, but also the fact that whoever wins that is basically one step closer to becoming first and winning the league. And who knows how big this game could tell come the end of the season as well.
I definitely think Tottenham-Chelsea is going to be a massive, massive part of the season. I don't think it's going to be a title decider, if I'm honest, this early on in the season. I think there's a long way to go. I think the thing that's going to let teams down this season, like Chelsea and Spurs, isn't playing against one another. I think it's going to be playing against the sides like your West Broms, like your Burnleys this season. It's how Chelsea and Spurs do against them. And if you look at West Brom and how both sides matched up against the Albion, Chelsea found themselves 3-0 down at half-time. Spurs won the game 1-0. For me, Spurs are better against the less able sides, I guess, this season on the evidence of what we've seen. So it's definitely going to be interesting, though. I don't know who to call, really, for the game. I think it could go either way. Tottenham have the attacking players to hurt anyone. They have a really good midfield as well, Spurs. I'm high regarding guards of Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg, sorry, and Ndombele. I think they're quality players, both of them. And I think Spurs do look the real deal this season. So it'd be interesting to see how both of them play against each other, and it's going to be a fantastic game, and it should be the best game of the game week, surely.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. I think in terms of the game itself, Chelsea against Tottenham, I think if I had to choose a team to go and win it now, I'd have to go with Tottenham, and that just be purely down to the fact that despite City's bad start to the season, and like where they are in the league, you can't question the quality in that team. And I know Mourinho did a typical Mourinho performance, but that is how you beat City. That's how Oli beat City. That's how everyone beats City, by counter-attacking. Basically, you have the ball, we'll have 3 points, as Mourinho says. So, look, that's how you beat City. So why change it? I see people, saying, but it's such park the bus. I don't think Tottenham have parked the bus. When you play City, you have to park the bus to a certain extent, and soak up the pressure and then hit them on the break. And Tottenham did it fantastically. And I think they really limited City, especially in the final third. I know Laporte's goal was written off a handball on Jesus, but in terms of that, I didn't see City scoring, especially last 10, 15 minutes. You really thought they'd go for it now. They're 2-0 down. They just got throw for an eye. I still didn't think they were going to score. I know I've got friends putting bets on, it's going to be 2-1. City will score in the end. I didn't think they'd score, and they didn't. And we'll talk more about the Tottenham game and the Tottenham City game in a minute. But I'm gonna have to back Tottenham for the Chelsea game. But yeah, again, it could go either way. It could be a draw. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a score draw. I don't think Tottenham will sit back as much. So whether that plays into Chelsea's hands a little bit more, it could do. But I'll go for a Tottenham win. They seem to be on form at the minute. The only issue is I think Alderweireld will come off injured as well. So that means either Roden or Tanganga will start. So it's how well they slot in to a huge game. But yeah, no, I'll still go with Tottenham. But anyway, we'll move on to the game which just happened. We'll go back to Aston Villa Brighton, and I know you had a bit of a tough time after the game, messaging me, and you couldn't really sleep after that game, could you? So I'll let you clear your head first, and then I'll talk afterwards. But yeah, no, you go first, Morgan, on this one.
I just want to keep this short and sweet. Before I say anything, fair play to Brighton. They were really good for their win. They come to Villa Park and got their season up and running, and fair play to them. They did really, really well in the game to pretty much match us, and they limited the threat that Grealish had for a lot of the game. So fair play to Brighton. But again, we're going to be sat here talking about a calamitous VAR decision. How that isn't a penalty with Trezeguet in the last minute, I think is a disgrace. Like I said to you outside of this pod, as soon as that referee goes to the monitor, he's changing his decision, and it's just so difficult to take. It's quite obviously a penalty, and it's robbed Villa of a good point for us, because we missed a lot of chances throughout the game. We made mistakes for their goal, but we created so many chances. And I mean, Ross Barkley going off in the first 10 minutes with a hamstring injury is a major blow, and I think he's out actually now for our next 2 to 3 games. So that's a massive miss for us. But when Traoré came on, he did really, really well. And yeah, it was just a case of Villa missing big chances and Brighton getting their opportunities through mistakes and playing to their game plan perfectly. And, Watkins had a few chances as well. I know Matty Ryan made a few really good saves. Yeah, a draw was probably a fair result on the balance of play, which is why I'm so frustrated that, again, just a shocking VAR decision, absolutely horrendous. I think they said it on Match of the Day. It's a penalty. anywhere else on the pitch, that's a foul. But for some reason in the box, it's not. Needs to be more clarity on the rules, I think. But look, it's over now. Villa have now got to move on to Monday night against West Ham, which is going to be a really difficult game, especially without Ross Barkley. Because I think you did see when Barkley come off how much of a difference Villa were without him in the side. So yeah, look, it's a frustrating one. 3 losses at home now in a row. So Villa definitely need to sort that out the next time we're at home, because we can't be losing home games. This season we need to pick up points at home if we want to finish in that top 10 position.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting game, like you said. I think obviously Danny Welbeck scored for Brighton, which is something I definitely didn't expect to come out of the game. And then Solly March also scored. But as you did get on the score sheet for you in between them goals, and obviously Lamptey getting sent off at the end really was a killer blow for my FPL. But in terms of the game, especially for when I was watching it as well, it's come the end, it was literally Villa trying to break down basically 11 players. Brighton,
yeah,
they just held on. They held on and they did their job, and you could see at the end how much that win meant to them. I mean, they really wanted that win, and they got it. And I think going back to that decision, I remember watching it, and he went down, and I thought, initially pen. I thought it was a pen, and then I seen it back, and I seen the things. I was like, has he touched him or has he not? He touched him. He kicked his shin. I think the thing that helps you as well is look at Solly March's reaction. His reaction is his hands are in the air. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what he's done. It's a pen. It's a penalty. And it's funny because when you said when they go to the monitor, they always change it. I thought that was interesting, and obviously they did. But I thought it was a pen, and obviously there was one in our game, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, no, in terms of yours, I think you're unlucky because if you get the pen there, it's a point. That's a big point for you, especially like you said, with Barkley coming off, and you got West Ham who are, good team still coming up. So yeah, no, I think you're unlucky in that game, but Brighton did their job. They got the 3 points. They defended well, and they come away with the win. And like you said, we'll move on to probably the biggest game on the game week in terms of the names of the club. But in terms of performance, I think there was one other that we both enjoyed more. So Tottenham City, obviously we touched on this in terms of the Chelsea-Tottenham game coming up. But Tottenham City, 2-0 Tottenham. Mourinho outplayed Guardiola. Again, knew exactly what he was going to do. Hit him on the break twice, 2 goals, clean sheet. I know Laporte, like I mentioned, goals offside. Not offside, sorry, handball. But Mourinho did his job and Tottenham did their jobs against City. And I have to say they did defend really well. And I'd probably say deserved the win at the end of the day.
Yeah, Tottenham were fantastic. I think the first goal was always going to be crucial in this game, and especially with the Mourinho side. If you go 1-0 down to the Mourinho side, you're going to find it very hard to get yourself back into the game. And I think, for me, like I said last week, I think it was, or the week before, Man City have lost their spark for me, especially going forward. They look a shadow of the team that they had before. And I listened to quite a lot of the kickoff with True Geordie, and he was mentioning, the team that Guardiola inherited. If we're talking about Guardiola and his time at Man City, if you compare the team that he inherited with the team that he has now, the team that he inherited was probably better than the team that he's got now. And when you consider the transfer fees that this man has put on some players, where's the value for money coming from Man City? I mean, I'm talking about Man City. I'm speaking about most of their flops of signings. I look at Mendy, 50 odd million, useless. Ruben Diaz, 60 odd million. He might be a good player, but 60 million for a centre half that is unproven in a half decent league. I know obviously Virgil van Dijk was 75 million and he was relatively unproven, but he'd still played in the Premier League. You know, I don't get the recruitment policy at Man City. I think it's a shambles, and I don't rate Rodri either. I think Rodri's useless in the middle of the park. I don't understand still what he does. And you can see players like Kevin De Bruyne getting really frustrated because he's looking around him, and that team that he had 2 years ago that was quality, informed players, real confidence, it's gone. It has well and truly gone. And I think it's a real test now with Pep's character, because for me, they're at the title race. I don't think they stand a chance of winning this title. I think they're way too inconsistent, and the performances just aren't good enough. You're not gonna, you know what I mean? You're not gonna win league titles when you go away to a big team like Tottenham and bottle it. It was such a bad performance from Man City. You know, they had a lot of the ball and they did nothing with it. And I think we have to credit Tottenham. I think they were exceptional again. I think Tottenham's business this summer is probably one of the most underrated in the league. I think
100%.
Reguilon at left back is unreal. I think he's such a good player, so underrated as well. Obviously, bringing Bale back, I think it's brought the whole romance of the club back together. And I think Mourinho deserves a lot of credit, because I think what he's creating at Tottenham is a real sustainable but just brilliant model. And I was the first one to say when Mourinho came in, you know, Poch shouldn't have got sacked. And is Mourinho going to do well? And is Mourinho washed up? But I tell you what, that man just answers to every critic that he gets. And we have to credit what he's done at Tottenham, because they are fantastic so far this season. And I think they're serious title contenders. And at the moment, I would honestly back them to win the league. I really would right now, especially a performance like that. They've proved it against a big team in Man City, who are obviously going to be up there at the end of the season. Yeah, Tottenham have done so well. And in this game, they were magnificent.
Yeah, I think with Tottenham as well, as I said, I was even saying, I think even 2 games into the game week, I was speaking to someone and they asked me, who do you think could win the league this year? And I said Tottenham could win it. I didn't only mention Tottenham. I mentioned a lot of teams because they were only 2 game weeks in. But I said Tottenham could win the league, and he seemed quite shocked. And he said, I've never heard anyone say that this season. I said, well, look at the transfer activity they've had. Look at the squad they've got. They've started the season okay. They lost to Everton, I know, but then they've won a couple of games on the bounce. They could win the league, and we're 9 game weeks in now, or almost 10, and I'd still back them to win the league. I really would, and I think they're a dangerous team. They've sorted their defence out. Unfortunately, like we mentioned, Alderweireld is injured, so it's how they cope with that now. And there's no doubt in what their attack is like. I mean, even Kane and Son on their own is a fantastic front two. But then to add Bale into it, Bergwijn, Moura, Vinicius as well, that is incredible. Like that is you could have 2 front threes there, which could easily be top 6 Premier League. And look, they could win the league. And with City, I mean, you know, in terms of Tottenham's first goal sticks with me because the defending was absolutely atrocious from both Laporte and Cancelo. Kane goes in short to receive the ball off of Ndombele. So Laporte tries to follow him when what he should be doing is passing him on to a midfielder, because that's the area he's moved into now. Meanwhile, as Laporte stepped forward, Son has ran in behind. Cancelo hasn't kept with him. It's that ball over the top. Is a fantastic pass, by the way, from Ndombele. It's a great way to pass. Son controls it and finishes it superbly. But if we're looking at City defensively, you know, you've got Cancelo there. I don't even know how much they paid for him. Laporte was 60. They've got that Diaz as well, like you mentioned, 60, 70. And did Mendy start? Or no, Walker started as well.
No.
God, do not get me started on Walker. But anyway, how can you not set up with over, 150, 200 million defence there and not defend that? And I know people could say, oh, look at United, look at this team, they can't defend. You're Man City. You have just won the league 2 seasons ago. You're trying to win the league again. You should have fire in your belly to win the league after Liverpool won it. That was shocking. And the thing that gets me the most is how Pep isn't coming under the same sort of grief that Ollie's been under, or Arteta is at the minute. And I know Arsenal are below them, but still, they're in the same boat. And can we point out, Pep spent more money than them, especially on the team overall. If you look at that whole team, how much he spent on that team, he spent more than Arteta, he spent more than Ollie, and he's not getting any stick for it. And it's like, really? Like, if Ollie had been in that position now, where Pep is now, having spent what Pep has spent, oh my God, I don't even want to think what would happen. Like, it'd be outrage. It'd be absolute outrage from the media, from everything. It'd be like, oh, he's gone, he's going, and he probably would have been sacked. But with Pep, it just seems to be, oh, it's all right, he'll sort out. He's Pep Guardiola, he's this. We're 10 game weeks in. You're below Man United, who's had the worst start to their Premier League ever, and you're below us.
I think with Pep Guardiola, I think it might actually be a case of poor coaching, because Mikel Arteta has gone to Arsenal, and since that has happened, it seems like Man City have lost the plot.
Yeah, definitely.
And I actually heard quite a lot of things about the reason why Raheem Sterling came on so much was because of Mikel Arteta. And I think the impact that Arteta has had on Arsenal is evidence as to why Man City, in my opinion, are now in a demise, because I don't think Pep is a good coach. I think he's a good manager, but I don't think he's a good coach because he's not getting the best out of these players. And just the recruitment at Man City has been terrible. Look at the prices that they're slinging for players. The reason why I don't think Pep comes under a lot of criticism from the media is because I don't think people actually give that much of a monkeys about Man City, if I'm being honest. I think people are almost wiping their hands with them because of the whole Champions League ban, them getting it lifted because they're richer than UEFA. I know it's only an opinion, but it's pretty much the truth. Look, people just don't like Man City as a club, and I think they're irrelevant at the moment. I think they are honestly irrelevant. I think people would rather see Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, teams that are, I guess, trying to bring through talent. Like Phil Foden has come through the Man City Academy, and in my opinion, he's one of their best players. But who else, other than Phil Foden, is trying to break into that Man City team? Absolutely no one. Man City may as well not have an academy.
Can we point out on that as well? Can we point out on their academy is Man United have just signed, I don't know if you've seen it, but Man United just signed a lad called Charlie McNeil, and he played for, I think he might have been at United previously, but he played for City for a long period of time. And apparently he's got over 600 goals in academy football. He's just left them to come back to United, who's his boyhood club as well, which helps. But where's City's pull in trying to keep him? He scored 600 goals. He clearly got, I think he's 17, 18. He's clearly got, goal scoring ability. Where's City's pulling, trying to keep him? And I know he's a boyhood United fan, and that's going to have a huge effect on him. But still, if Pep Guardiola, you're not telling me if Pep sits down with him and says, look, in 1 year, 2 years, you could be playing in the first team. He's not going to be like, okay, this is tempting me here. Like, we've just nicked, arguably, one of the best strikers in England from City, and obviously we would have had to pay compensation for him being in their academy, but where is their pull in their academy? I mean, they've got Eric Garcia who come through. He wants to go back to Barcelona. He don't want to stay,
For me, Eric Garcia is, and he's not even a good player either. For me, he's useless. I've seen him come into games for Man City and just look so poor. And you look at what other teams are producing in their academies. Obviously, Chelsea's is unreal with what they produce. So, look, I think we could talk about Man City all day, to be honest. I think it's all going wrong at Man City. The 2-year deal for Pep is a sign that they're just, as a club, I think they're happy now to accept just spending massive amounts on players and trusting Pep Guardiola that he's going to somehow bring them all together and formulate the Centurion team. which for me is just not going to happen. But we could talk all day about them. I'd rather move on, to be honest, because I think as a neutral, I think it's so frustrating seeing money just go down the pan like Man City do, and just a waste of a club that they are in the Premier League. I really do not like them as a club. The money they spend, the way they recruit, just the whole story of them. I think everyone in the Premier League has lost respect for them. I have friends that are Man City fans, and obviously I tell them these sorts of things. So for me, it's nothing new speaking about any of this.
Do you think, I think just to end on City, obviously we haven't done a pod since Pep signed his 2-year deal. Do you think Pep signing his 2-year deal will mean that he's staying and he's trying to get Messi in? Do you think that would happen now that Pep is staying? Do you think Messi will come, or what do you think on that?
I've heard Messi is sick of being, quote, the answer to every problem at Barcelona. And it does seem like he's not really buying into Koeman's system. But I can't see Messi leaving Barcelona. I really can't. And I think Man City fans are really clutching onto the straws of that Messi's going to come. Pep Guardiola's signed this 2-year deal. If Messi doesn't sign next summer, where's the incentive for Pep Guardiola to be there? Like, there are much better managers out there, much better, that could get more out of the players and be a better coach. That's the most important thing, be a better coach. And I think if Man United don't take the punt and get Maurizio Pochettino, I think Man City should go for him. If we're looking at a guy that can coach players and make them better and improve them and get back that winning mentality that Man City were used to before, I think Pochettino's your man for it. So, look, I think Pep signing a 2-year deal shows a lack of ambition for Man City, because if I was spending that much money and getting that amount of success back, which is absolutely jack nothing right now, I'd be asking questions as a board. And quite clearly, they're just happy to settle for, like I said earlier, spending money and getting no success. So, yeah.
I think Pep's only there still because he has to win big ears. I think that's the only reason he's still knocking about. I mean, he's won 2 Premier Leagues, 2 Premier Leagues. He's won
Two Premier Leagues, I think.
Yeah, how many Carabao Cups, Community Shields? He's won an FA Cup. He's only there for big ears now, really. And then once he wins that, hopefully it doesn't happen. But once he wins that, I think he'll look somewhere else for a challenge. I think, Juventus, he could have gone there. I think he was rumoured to go there. Barcelona, there's always that pull for him to go back. So I think if he wins big ears, that'll be him done at City, in my opinion. But yeah, anyway, we'll move on to the better half of Manchester anyway. I mean, it says so by the table, doesn't it? Man United, West Brom, 1-0 on Saturday evening. Obviously, I watched the game. Morgan, I believe you did as well. Go on, I'll let you speak first, and then I'll have my say on the game.
It was funny watching West Brom lose, being a Villa fan. It was funny watching the Albion.
Happy then. I'm glad I made you happy.
It was good watching the Albion lose, but as much as the Albion lost, I think they played so well and they really deserve something from this game. To be that brave to go to Man United and play like that, I think they do deserve credit. For me and for a lot of other people, we were expecting routes here. We were expecting Bruno Fernandes to get 3 assists for fantasy teams and Rashford to get a hat-trick again and get another inform on FIFA that everyone can abuse. But it just wasn't the way. And I think Man United were quite lucky, if I'm being honest, to get out of this game with the 3 points. But it was a good 3 points for United. 3 points that Ollie definitely needed. I think that's your first home win of the season. So it was good on that front. Obviously, the VAR controversy, when I look back at it, it wasn't a pen for West Brom, but it's like the same thing with Villa. It's that it gets given, there's the hope there, and then it gets overturned and you feel robbed from that. I do think Villa's penalty was a lot more of a penalty than West Brom's. I think Bruno Fernandes did just about win the ball. So, look, I think West Brom, Sam Johnston as well, ex-Villa keeper. He was magnificent in goal for West Brom. I thought his performance deserved a clean sheet in itself. And the whole penalty incident obviously was such a shame. But
Yeah,
rules are rules. You know, if you come off
yeah,
your line as a keeper, you're asking for trouble. And I just think it's surely something that keepers work on in the training ground. And yet, I guess it's just a heat of the moment thing.
yeah.
They're so itching to save a penalty that they end up coming off their line. And yeah, it ends up Bruno Fernandes getting a second bite of the cherry. And when you give a player of his quality 2 bites at something, he's not exactly going to refuse the second one. So, yeah, look, good result for Man United. And, yeah, nice to see West Brom, even though obviously being a Villa fan, I don't really want to see him do well. But it was nice to see West Brom put a valiant performance in the Prem, because I think they've been really disappointing apart from Man United and Chelsea this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. In terms of the performance from Man United, I thought it was borderline really bad, to be honest. I thought it was like terrible. But I think it's one of them games, it's that old cliche where the result mattered more than what the performance was. And let's put it, we had to win that game, especially being at home, having not won there, especially this season. We had to win that game, and we did. But, you know, where do you want to start? It was only 1-0, but there seemed to be so much action. And I think in terms of West Brom, I think, for, like you said, for Sam Johnston and I think it was Carl Bartley themselves, I think they deserved the points. Their 2 performances, they were fantastic. But look, in terms of, and look, I mentioned this when we were speaking about the Villa game, in terms of the penalty that got given for West Brom and the one for you, the reason at the time, and this is me taking my Man United hat off, the reason at the time I was not, well, I was angry that it got given, was the fact that if you watch Bruno Fernandes' tackle back, it's like you mentioned, his foot goes in, it nicks the ball, and then the contact is made. Whereas with Solly March on Trezeguet, the ball is nowhere. The ball is nowhere. It's just whether did Solly March kick Trezeguet, and he did. So yours was a pen, because there was no ball involved. Like it was either the main controversy there was, did he kick him? Did he not? Evidently he didn't, but he did. Then with the Bruno one, yes, you can call it clumsy, you can call it silly inside the box, but the fact is the ball is played first, and it's not like it's a terrible follow through. He nicks the ball and then he catches, I think it's Gallagher, in the box. So then when I've seen the replay back, and like you mentioned earlier, every time they go to the monitor, they change their decision. So I was glad it got overturned, but nevertheless, you know, you can call it lucky, you can call it VAR United again, but in my opinion, it wasn't a penalty. And like I said, you can put in the comments down below whether you think either of them were pens, what your opinions were on each. We've given ours. So yeah, for that one. And then, like we said, we got up the other end, and it's the same rule about handball, isn't it? We've seen it with Gomez, we've seen it with Kilman in the past. As soon as that happened, you just knew it was a penalty. And even when they're checking VAR, you know that's a penalty, because the hand's out, the ball's at his hand. Theoretically, it's not handball, but in the rules of the game, it's handball, isn't it? So it got given. Obviously, Bruno misses the first one, but Johnston is off his line. And then for the second one, he does bury it. But like you mentioned, if they're working on this in training and working on staying on your line, even for the second one, Johnston was miles off it. So if God forbid if Bruno missed that one, and you know they would have had to take it again because he was miles off. Can you imagine? So look, we come out of that game a little bit lucky. I think De Gea made a fantastic save. Robertson come on and hit the bar with basically his first touch of the ball. So look, we come away 1-0 winners. Like I said, I was expecting maybe 2, like I predicted. I think in the last pod, I expected 2, maybe 3. But look, clean sheet, a 1-0 win. You can't ask more. I thought Telles was fantastic. First Premier League game. I thought he was magnificent. Slotted in really well. I always doubted over Telles, especially when he signed. You know, is he as good defensively as he is offensively? And he seemed as though he is at the minute. I mean, he seems really good. He put in a fantastic performance. And then, you know, just touching on the Champions League game last, like a couple of nights ago, I think what was interesting to see from Ollie is, I think in that game against West Brom, he had 2 holding midfielders, whereas against Istanbul, He only went with one, which was Fred, and he had Donny and Bruno. And honestly, I thank the Lord, because he's finally realised that Donny is not just an attacking midfielder. He can play, in sort of that box-to-box role. And for me, Donny should be starting in that midfield. Obviously, Pogba's injured or got a knock at the minute, but it was I thought Donny was fantastic, and like I said, against Istanbul, we were really good, and that's the performance you want to see. And you could argue Istanbul was better than West Brom or whatever, because I think, going into it, we're like, well, if we're only beating West Brom 1-0, we're going into the Champions League against Istanbul, who aren't, exactly no mugs. It was a great performance. I thought Cavani was fantastic. Martial and Rashford were really good, and the team played really well. And even when they beat us 2-1 a couple of weeks ago, we both said, we will beat them at home. And despite our home record, we'll still beat them. We could tell that was a one-off. And I mean, I think we threw everything at them come the end of that game and couldn't quite get a draw. But yeah, no, it was a great performance from United in midweek. But like I said, in terms of the West Brom game, take the 3 points, move on, momentum carries on. And it was good to see Daniel James on the score sheet as well. Obviously, he's been through a tough time, obviously personally, and through his form at Man United. So fantastic, and his goal for Wales, obviously international break, was good as well. So well done to him. So I guess we'll just touch upon this fixture. But obviously, Everton beat Fulham 3-2. Fulham had another penalty woe that could have levelled them the game, got them a big point against a good team like Everton. So that's a big 3 points for Everton. Calvert-Lewin still scoring. But Fulham need to sort out that penalty issue, don't they, Morgan?
They do. Fulham played really, really well in the second half. I watched this game, and in the first half, Everton could have been 4 or 5-1 up. Fulham's first goal, though, was very, very nicely well worked. They actually scored 2 very well worked goals, Fulham did. But it's that defending that kills them. I think his name's Tosin Adebayo.
Yeah.
Former Man City youth centre-back, quite interestingly. Shocking performance at the back. Kept giving the ball away. I think he tried to play a diag for the first goal after 30 seconds, and they got cut out, and Everton went and scored. The thing is with Fulham is that they seem to make an awful start to a game at home. They'll go 1-0 down in the opening 5 minutes, and it's just a mountain to climb from there. But look, I think Fulham are definitely showing signs. For me, they haven't been in the top 3 worst teams this year. That's hard to say, but for me, they actually show a little bit. I haven't seen anything from Sheffield United, Burnley and West Brom yet, really. I'd probably say West Brom is a bit of an argument there. But Fulham haven't really been that bad. Defensively, they've been one of the worst, I'll admit that. But going forward, they do look really good. And they've got some really good players. But obviously, when Fulham have got the players, the quality they did, look, they're going to take their chances. And Calvert-Lewin, my fantasy league dream, getting 2 goals. And I believe he was my skipper or vice captain. So he got me quite a lot of points on that one. But yeah, easy win in the end for Everton on the basis of the first half and a little bit towards the end. There was a 30-minute period just after half-time to the 75th minute where Fulham really piled it on and went for the game. And then the last 15 minutes, I think Everton did really well to see the game out. So yeah, little to cover on that one, really.
Yeah, and then we'll swiftly move on to the next game. I don't think there's much to say about it, but West Ham, Sheffield United. Now, obviously, in our predictions, I think we both said West Ham would come away with the win there. But I actually said that I wouldn't be surprised if Sheffield United nicked a 1-0 win. And going into that game, I did have something in the back of my head thinking, why do I think Sheffield United could do a scruffy 1-0 win over West Ham here? But unfortunately, it didn't happen. Haller got on the score sheet. I think West Ham's will be happy.
Great finish.
Yeah, fantastic finish. West Ham fans will be happy to see him scoring again. But it's another 3 points for West Ham, and Sheffield United. They're in the mud again, aren't they? They're not really They haven't picked up many points. I think he's at 1 point this season, or even if that.
1 point, yeah.
It's not looking good, is it? It's not looking good.
Yeah, it was the Happy Hammers on Sunday. Good performance from West Ham. I thought they controlled the game. I thought Declan Rice was magnificent, along with Angelo Ogbonna. I think both of them had exceptional games for West Ham. Great finish from Haller. Hopefully that's a confidence booster for him. Not too much, because I don't want him to score against Villa. But Sheffield United missed a massive chance. Ollie McBurney threw on goal, hits the post or the bar, I think. And look, for me, Sheffield United are in real trouble. They have lost all sense of form, and it's worrying to watch as a neutral, because I don't think many people want to see them get relegated. But I think they could be bookies' favourites to go down now.
Yeah,
I think
they're in.
people at
They're
the
in.
start were like, maybe it's a blip, 4 or 5 games, maybe they're just a little bit fatigued from last season. But West Ham at home, they won last season. Fulham at home, they would have won last season. Wolves at home, they would have probably have won or got a point last season. I think they got a point last season. Sheffield United are worryingly in a heap of trouble, and they've actually spent 54 million on strikers in the last 2 years, and they can barely score a goal. And when people give Wesley stick, for example, for his lack of involvement for Villa last season, Ryan Brewster hasn't scored a goal yet for Sheffield United, and they paid 24 million for this guy. Ollie McBurney, they paid nearly 30 million for him. He was good last season, but this season he's been terrible. He can't score. So 60 mil on strikers and you can barely score a goal, you're destined to go down. I just think people have worked Sheffield United out now. I think they play one way, and it's very much a fixed system. And I think last season it caught everyone by surprise and people couldn't stop it. This year, I think they're way too predictable, and I think people can stop it now, because look, a lot of their players look fatigued and they look worryingly just in doubt for the rest of the season. They look really, really fatigued and tired, and that's a worry for Sheffield United, because the way they play has got to be energetic, and they just don't look energised whatsoever.
No, I think, like you mentioned, it's really not looking good for Sheffield United, and they can't buy a goal at the minute, and that's it's a tough one, especially when you're down the bottom. You need goals and you need to sort your defence out. But yeah, no, we'll move on from that game, and I think we're going to have quite a big chat about a certain situation in this game. But Leeds Arsenal 0-0. How Leeds didn't win this game, I do not know. They've hit the post about 3 times, especially in the last 10 minutes. That I was watching, I'm thinking, oh my word, how they not like. I think Bamford hit the post. I think Rafinha hit the post. Someone else did. I can't remember who it was. I think Click put one over from a really good chance. But we'll talk about the Pepe red card, because I think that was the main incident in the game. I don't think there's any complaints really, is there? It's a red card, isn't it?
It's a red card, and Nicolas Pepe should never play for Arsenal again. I'm not just saying this because of the red card incident. I think he is a terrible footballer, and I'm not bothered who wants to come and shoot me down for saying that. Nicolas Pepe is the biggest flop recently in the Premier League. 72 million for this man, who is the most one-footed player in the Prem, the most indisciplined player in the Prem. To do that, when Arsenal are already up against the cash, he should never put that shirt on again. That was embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. Alioski made him look stupid. For me, Pepe, he's just not... Where was this fee from? Like, did Arsenal honestly look at FIFA and go, Pepe got a team of the season last year? Oh my God, everyone's saying he's unreal. Should we chuck like 60, 70 mil at him and see what Lille say? Lille must be laughing at that fee now. They got 74 mil for an absolute clown. I'm sorry, people that are friends of mine compared this guy to Jack Grealish in terms of quality. Have a day off. Have a day off. People were saying Grealish 80 mil, not a chance. Pepe 74 million. 74 million. If Pepe's 74 million, Calvert-Lewin's 160 million. Pepe is... I don't understand where this delusional Arsenal fan sort of consensus comes from with Pepe. Like, oh, we need to give him more time. No, he's had enough time now. He was there for the entirety of last season. He's there this season, and he's been rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. And to do that in a game like that, he gave the game away for Arsenal. And I do feel sorry for Arsenal. And that's why I'm so passionate about this Pepe situation, because he's let the club down. And I don't think he should put the shirt on. He moaned on social media and said that he needs starts, he needs games. He gets his start and he messes up his opportunity. And for me, that was a massive disrespect towards his players and Arteta.
I think in terms of Pepe, and I remember you messaging me this and put it in like the group chat as well. You were like, is Pepe one of the biggest flops in like the Premier League? And I think he's on par with Kepa, to be honest, because I think Kepa statistically is the worst, and similar fees as well. So I think them two have a little group, and do you know what? And the thing is, people will be like, oh, but where's Harry Maguire in this group? No, Harry Maguire is not a flop at Man United. And, there are the stats to back it up last season. This season, yes, all right, he's had his parts where he's been terrible, but he's also had parts where he's been good. But if you're calling Harry Maguire a flop after last season and the statistics, you don't watch football. It's as simple as that. If you call in Harry Maguire a flop, yes, he may not be worth 80 million, but I remember when we signed him, a story, it came out, it was like, some guy said, look, Harry Maguire is not worth 80 million, but guess what? It's the same with Alfredo. Alfredo is not worth 25p, but guess what? I've got 25p and I want Alfredo, so I'm going to buy Alfredo. I've got 80 million, I'm going to buy a Harry Maguire, because we need a Harry Maguire, but B, I want a Harry Maguire. And that's what happened. And I'm not really funny, if United didn't sign Maguire last season or last summer, we would have had Phil Jones playing, God knows where he would have been. Like, we arguably probably would have kept Chris Smalling, and him trying to play out from the back, I don't think I could have watched it. We literally would have been on the floor. Twanzebe got injured pretty much all of last season. We wouldn't have had a defence. Like, it was bad enough, with Maguire did pick up an injury last season. I think Lindelof picked up an injury last season. We were chopping and changing defenders. Imagine if we didn't sign him. So if you're going to come at me and say, well, why is Maguire not in this for being a flop? He's not a flop. Yes, he's inconsistent at times, and is he worth 80 million? Probably not. But you can't call him a flop for improving the defence, which he has done. But I think
the Harry Maguire situation, Harry Maguire makes big errors, and that's why he gets criticised. He makes errors that are very notable, and being a defender, usually, if you make a mistake, it ends up in the back of the net. So, look, I think Pepe for me is the biggest flop, on par with Kepa, now that you mentioned Kepa into the equation. But in this game, I think Leeds are an interesting one, because still they get credited. But for me, in that game, they should be really disappointed that they didn't take their chances and win this game. Bamford had a header from 3 or 4 yards that he should have scored. Obviously, they hit the woodwork quite a few times, but I don't get what this thing is about not criticising Leeds United. Like, they're in the bottom half of the table. Yeah, they've had an okay start to the season, but if Leeds are this brilliant team and play brilliant football and are amazing, and Bielsa's such a good bloke that should be nominated for every award on the planet, how can you not break down a poor Arsenal side who got lumped 3-0 by Villa last time? Like, how can you not break them down? Arsenal had Rob Holding playing at centre-back, who I don't think is a good player whatsoever. Gabriel had an off game. Bellerin didn't play well. Tierney didn't play well. Arsenal didn't play well, and they still got a point. Arsenal didn't need to play well to win, to get anything from this game. And the best thing about it is that Arsenal nearly won the game. Arsenal should have got 3 points. That Saka miss at the end was massive. And you imagine if Leeds had have lost that game. You imagine having all the ball, playing all the good football and then bottling it in the last minute. And that, for me, is why I think Arsenal deserve a little bit of credit in this game, because after Arsenal went down to 10 men, I thought they looked a lot more assured than when they had 11 men, which just proves how ineffective Pepe is, to be honest. But yeah, Leeds should be really disappointed that they didn't get 3 points in this game. I don't think a point's good enough for them, if I'm being honest. And I think if they are in and around the bottom at the end of the season, I think they're going to look back on a game like that and think, we could have got 3 points out of that and probably should have.
Well, yeah, let us know who's the biggest flop in the Premier League, especially in terms of price tag as well. I mean, there's probably loads that obviously we haven't covered, but I think Pepe and Kepa spring to mind definitely. I think Kepa statistically as well is quite bad. Next game, Liverpool-Leicester. I've got to admit, Liverpool.
I told you, Brady.
I
told you Liverpool would win. I told you.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't realise Liverpool had that many of their first team still fit. I thought they were really, on the ground. I didn't realise. I think their back four was pretty much there. If I get the team up.
Yeah, apart from I think it was Fabinho.
Yeah.
I think Nico Williams came in at right back for Trent, but apart from that, that was the only.
Milner started right back. So
even
then he's played left back before, so that's not really too out of position for him. So they had Alisson, Robertson, Fabinho, Matip, and Milner as a back four. It's not exactly terrible. Fabinho's obviously played there before, and Matip is obviously a natural. Their midfield, the only odd one out there is Curtis Jones, but I think he played relatively
really well.
And then the front three is the front three. There's no issues there. Obviously Salah was missing, I think, or he was missing due to COVID still at that point. So Jota slotted in, but credit to Liverpool. Got to give it to them. No, Leicester are top of the league, or they were at the time. High flying, in form, but really, I don't really think to be fair, there was a huge moment in the game, and that was when it was the Harvey Barnes chance. They won 1-0 down at the time.
1-0 down, yeah.
If Harvey Barnes had put that in there, it's a completely different game. And when the second or third went in, I'm still thinking, if that chance goes in, that's a huge turning point. But I don't think Leicester really offered too much in terms of chances. I just think the Harvey Barnes one was huge, and that was their big chance. Imagine if they score that. So, look, fair play to Liverpool. They absolutely outplayed Leicester. Brendan Rodgers didn't get one over his old club there. So,
Leicester in terms of very.
Yeah, it was just. I'll probably say I was a little bit disappointed by Leicester as well, being top of the league. The top of the league, I really thought they'd go for it and get something out of the game, whether that be a point or a win. But to lose 3-0 as well, it's not like they had a player sent off early. Vardy was playing, Maddison was playing, Barnes was obviously playing. They had Tielemans, who's had a great start to the season. They had a good team there. Fofana as well. It just didn't look right. And Liverpool, fair play to them. As much as I hate to say it, they deserve the 3 points, and they're kicking on as well.
Liverpool did so well at cutting off the supply to Jamie Vardy. I think that is the key of beating Leicester this year. You shut Vardy out the game, or the supply to Vardy, and Leicester are honestly, I hate to say it, toothless. I said it before, and I probably raised a few eyebrows, but Leicester without Jamie Vardy, which was pretty much what it was in the game, because Vardy barely got a kick in the game. They are just a completely different side. And like I said, I do fear for them, the era after him, because they play around him and they play around his strengths. And if you can play against his strengths, like Liverpool did, the game is so easy. Liverpool just cruised through it. You wouldn't have thought they had injuries. This was arguably one of the most dominating and convicting displays during the game week. This game was easy for Liverpool. They walked this game. And Leicester were really disappointing on their big day, really. It was a day that Leicester could have really have put a good message in to the rest of the league. So, yeah, really, really disappointing from from Leicester, but credit to Liverpool, they were fantastic. And I think Jota is one of the best bits of business in the transfer window. I said why. I was one of the people that said, why on earth are they signing Diogo Jota? Why are Wolves letting him go? Why is he going to Liverpool? He's never going to get a game. But I tell you what, he's gone there and he's thought, do you know what? I ain't settling for this front three being ahead of me. I'm going to go in there and cause Jurgen Klopp a headache. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try and get a starting position. And for me, Jota should start regardless. I think he's proved that he's good enough to start in that team. And yeah, good win for Liverpool. That they needed that after the media coverage of the amount of players that they're missing through injury.
Yeah, a goal for Firmino as well. We mustn't forget.
Yep.
Finally for him. I mean, there was a
horrific miss though.
Oh, there was. Wait, it come off the post, it come off the bar, didn't it?
All of the horrific misses, really. There was about 4 of them, but he scored the hardest one, which
I
is
couldn't believe he scored. I think
Bobby is lovely at doing.
I thought it was like Matip or somebody who scored the header. I didn't realise it was Firmino. But
straight away.
Yeah, no, it was a good header by him, and yeah, like we said, Jota does seem to be banging form. It's just a shame he's not as good as Bruno Fernandes. We'll move on to Burnley Crystal Palace. Just touch on that game quickly. Huge 3 points for Burnley. Massive 3 points. This Palace team beat Leeds. I don't know Leeds and where they are, but their Leeds are still a good team. They beat them 4-1 previously. They've been doing all right, and Burnley's rocked up and 3 points.
There's one key thing you need to mention in this game, mate, and that's Wilf Zaha getting coronavirus prior to kick-off. I'm sorry, but that is the reason why Burnley won this game. Crystal Palace without Wilfried Zaha is like Leicester without Jamie Vardy. The effect that it has on the team is ridiculous. I thought Eze was brilliant, though, in this game. I thought he looked really good, and I'm gutted Villa didn't get him, to be honest, because he looks a real coup for Crystal Palace. But look, Burnley are Burnley, man. If you go 1-0 down to Burnley,
good luck
getting past them. They just shoved everyone. But I thought Ben Mee and Tarkowski, I think that was their first game together because of injuries and stuff. They looked a lot more astute at the back, and great win for Burnley. They needed the win. I think if they'd have lost that game, I really could have seen Sean Dyche leaving. I know he's been linked with quite a few jobs elsewhere. Palace, a little bit of a disappointing result, but look, they're without Zaha. Nick Pope, shout out to him. Terrific save at the end. Not really a shout out, though, because I took him out of my fantasy team last week. And he went and got a clean sheet, which is annoying. But yeah, look, good performance from Burnley overall. They knew their roles. You know what you're going to get with Burnley. Hit and hoof FC, but it works.
Yeah.
And we move on to the last game, which I said, quote, would be one of the most, or if not the most entertaining of the game week. And it was Wolves 1, Southampton 1. An interesting game of football.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we both said this could be, the most entertaining game of the game week. And obviously we had City Tottenham. But I still think this was probably one of the best games. I think, was a draw a fair result? Probably. I would say probably. Yeah. However, if you look at both sides, Walcott should have scored that 1-on-1. I mean, if he scores that, at the minute they win the game 2-1. Jimenez obviously scored a header. He was offside. I was off celebrating because he was in my FPL as well. So when that flag got put off, I was not happy. But no, it was a really good game, and like you said, two really good clubs play really good football as well. I think Southampton, obviously being where they are in the table, is fantastic as to what Hassan who has done there. Wolves as well. Nuno, we know how they play. We know they've got good quality players. So yeah, it was a really interesting game of football to watch. But I think a draw was probably a fair result. I don't think you could argue too much about one team winning or the other. It was just a good game of football to watch. And near the end, it got a bit stretched end to end as one team tried to nick it. But no, I think fair results a draw for this game.
Yeah, well, Southampton, for me, I think people need to watch them. Just watch Southampton in a game. Their football is honestly exceptional. at times. I think there was a chance that Armstrong had in the first half. Unbelievable football from the back from Southampton. I mean, if you want to look at how to play a 4-4-2, just go and watch Southampton. Honestly, they are brilliant. Ralph Hasenhüttl deserves so much credit. I think he's done amazing. I was a bit disappointed with Wolves in the first half, I will be honest. I don't know what's going on with the Adama Traore at the moment, but he just doesn't seem to be right. It just doesn't seem to have that effect that he had on the team last season. So I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah.
Ex-Villa player, so I'd love to see him do well again. But yeah, look, I think a draw is a fair result on the balance of play because I think Wolves came into the game a lot more in the second half and potentially could have won it. I think they had a goal disallowed for offside in the last stages of the game to make it 2-1. So look, I think on the balance of play, with Walcott missing that big chance, I think 1-1's probably a fair result. So we'll move on to the end segment of this pod. We're going to go through all of the 10 Premier League games now, but we're just going to say the score predictions because we're aware of time. So we're going to give our predictions for all 10 of the games, starting off with Braden, Crystal Palace, Newcastle at Selhurst Park. What are you thinking?
I mean, what an enthralling game to start the game week. I say that because both teams, they're in a bit of a sticky patch at the minute. They can't seem to get momentum going. Can't really seem to pick up points. So I think, obviously, Palace, I think, will definitely still be missing Zaha. So that's a huge blow for them. Newcastle, we all know what they're like, but maybe against a less strong side, they could possibly go for this. I'm tempted to go with a draw, but I know that's boring, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with I'm going to go 2-1 to Newcastle. I reckon.
Interesting.
I reckon Sir Maximin and Wilson will have a little bit of a party against them, and I think I'll go 2-1 Newcastle because I think they need a win more than I think Palace do at the minute.
I think Palace without Zaha are not going to score. And I think it's going to be 1-0 to Newcastle. I am backing the Geordies to get their winning streak, I guess, or just get a win on the board again.
Just get a win.
I'm backing Callum Wilson to get the goal as well. But yeah, 1-0 win for Newcastle for me. Brighton, Liverpool. Now, I would like to see Brighton lose, I'm going to be honest, after the whole penalty scandal. I'd love to see them lose just to claw back some form of retribution for getting mugged off. But look, I think this is going to be I think Brighton are going to give Liverpool a game here, but I do think Liverpool are just too good. Even though they had a very bad performance yesterday, obviously we're filming on a Thursday against Atlanta, the first time they've lost at home for 2 years. But the side that they put out, there's going to be a few changes. And I think Jurgen Klopp knew that going into the game, resting a few players potentially for this game. I think it's going to be a 3-1 win for Liverpool, this one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think what's interesting is my mate is obviously, I think I mentioned, is a Liverpool fan as well, and we did end up. I think we watched the first half of the game, but then we didn't end up watching it. And I think the shocking stat of that game is I think they brought on Jota, Salah, and I think Mane was obviously playing as well. They didn't have a shot on target all game, Liverpool.
No.
And this is a team they beat 5-0 a few weeks back.
And to add to that, Pierluigi Golini, Atlanta's goalkeeper, former Aston Villa goalkeeper, keeping clean sheets at Anfield. So if there's a conspiracy in that, I don't know what is, but yeah, up the Villa.
Yeah, well, clearly one of your own. But yeah, no,
with the Villa.
With Liverpool, I can't believe they didn't have a shot on target. Obviously, first time they've lost at home. But look, let's not get too caught up in that. I think their group's wrapped up anyway. I think they'll top it. It's just whether Atlanta or Ajax go through second place. I think if Liverpool were not to qualify in the position they're in now, it'd be a travesty for them, but good times for me. But in terms of this game, I think, like I said, I want to see Brighton win. But I think Liverpool are going to bounce back from that loss against Atlanta. I'd probably go Brighton being at home. That could help them. I'll go 2-1 Liverpool. I'll go 2-1 Liverpool for that one. I think Brighton can nick a goal because they do look dangerous going forward. But Liverpool have got too much firepower, and especially in Jota, like we mentioned. The next game is obviously City-Burnley. If City don't win this, then Jesus, oh my Lord, I don't know what's going to happen.
I think this is an easy one, to be honest. As much as I don't like Man City, I think 2-0 Man City. Phil.
Yeah,
Phil Foden and oh God, imagine having to think about a Man City scorer. That's how bad it's got. I'm gonna go Phil Foden, and I'm gonna go Riyad Mahrez just because I think he needs a goal. So yeah, I'm gonna go Foden and Mahrez. 2-0 to Man City.
Yeah, do you know what? I think I'll go with you on that one. I'll go 2-0. I think that City have to bounce back after that Tottenham loss. Sorry. Yeah. No better game surely than against Burnley to do so. But you never know.
Surely.
You never know. Sean Dyche may have a masterclass up his sleeve. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Everton Leeds. I think I'm gonna go Everton to win. And I'm gonna go 2-1 to Everton.
See, I feel as though if any Leeds fan is watching this, I am digging myself a hole with what I've said already about them on the pods. So, look, I do think Everton are going to win this game, but I think Leeds are going to give them a game here because I think Marcelo Bielsa is going to rifle them players for that performance against Arsenal because they need to be more clinical in front of goal.
Yeah.
But I do think Everton, even though they were very ropey against Fulham, it has to be said, I do think they are going to concede a goal in this game because they've still somehow winning matches with Jordan Pickford in goal. But I'm going to go with a 3-1 Everton win here. And I think Calvert-Lewin is going to get all three as well. I think he's going to get back to scoring ways, and I'm backing him to get a hat-trick here just because he's in my fantasy.
Great. Now, West Brom, Sheffield United, two teams down the bottom. I mean, I'm going to go West Brom. West Brom win here. I think 1-0, 2-0. I can't see Sheffield United scoring. I think West Brom are fantastic against us, like we mentioned, and have been relatively good this season, especially against Tottenham and against Chelsea. Two big clubs there as well. So yeah, no, I'll back West Brom to win. I'll go 1 or 2-0. Probably go. I'll go 1-0. 1-0 West Brom.
I'm a bit torn on this game because I think it's going to be 1-0 either way. I don't think there's going to be many goals in this game, but this is probably going to be clipped next week when it ends 4-4. But do you know what? I'm going to go 1-0 the other way. Sheffield United to win. I think West Brom, although they played well against Man United last week, I just think this is the game that Sheffield United are going to get that elusive win and shock everyone because actually
they need it. They need it.
Yeah, I think the Baggies are the favourites going into this on the context of what we've seen so far this season. But look, I don't really want to predict West Brom to win a game, but I do think Sheffield United are going to edge this one. And then
Super Sunday.
We move on, Braden, to Southampton Man United. Now, you're going to hate me for my prediction on this game because I'm going to say it right now. I think you're going to lose. I honestly think that Southampton are going to beat Man United, and I think it's going to be 2-0. Sorry, 2-0. It's got to be said.
Okay, yeah. That's fine. I've taken your advice on board. Okay. However, I think all these tricky Reds are on a bit of a run now. They've sorted out the home form with two good wins. Obviously, we've beaten Leipzig at home in the Champions League as well. But we sorted that out. We seem to be clicking. Fernandes is on absolute flames. In my opinion, he's arguably the most informed player in like the world at the minute. I think he's up there with like I think Calvert-Lewin as well.
Grealish.
Grealish as well. Go on, we'll chuck him in as well. But yeah, no, I think Bruno is on fire at the minute. I mean, he obviously got brought off as well against Istanbul just for I guess a little bit of resting. I think what the most interesting thing in this game was to see how Ollie sets up his midfield in this game. Is he going to be brave and go with one defensive midfielder and possibly have Donny starting with Bruno and then Fred in behind or McTominay? Or is he going to go back to two defensive midfielders and then just obviously Bruno a cam? So that's going to be interesting. Does Cavani start? Who knows? But look, I'm going to go 2-1 Man United in that game. I back the boys. Southampton, good team. Nothing like I can't say anything more about that. They're fantastic, like they were against Wolves and they happened this season. So they probably could get a goal against us as well. So I'll go 2-1 Man United, but I'm confident. I'm confident in that game. Then I guess the big main header, the big game is Chelsea-Tottenham. We've touched on this, so I guess we'll just do our score predictions for this. I think I said Tottenham to win. I'll go a 2-1 Tottenham for that one.
I'm going 2-2. I think it'll be an interesting, entertaining game, but I think both sides, there's going to be goals, but I think they're going to both cancel each other out. I think both are really good going forward. 2-2 for me.
Arsenal-Wolves. The last game on Super Sunday, even this is a big game. Arsenal need a win. Wolves need to try and find some form, get a few wins together, get a run together. So this is going to be a good game. I might actually go for a draw in this one and be boring. I might go for a 1-1 draw.
I'm tempted to be boring like you as well because I don't know whether Connor Cody is back for Wolves. I know Wolves played a bit of a different system against Southampton and they didn't really look as threatening and they didn't really look that great with it, if I'm being honest. So I think they will cause Arsenal a problem though, because Arsenal at the moment is just a calamity what's going on there. I think Arteta's got his hands tied. I think obviously a lot of the stuff going on around the club won't help. The Pepe sending off, that isn't going to help either. As much as he's a useless player, he could have come off the bench and I guess tried to do something. But for me, do you know what? I'm going to be out there. I'm going to say Wolves are going to win this game. I think Wolves are going to win 2-0. I don't think Arsenal are going to score because I was saying this to an Arsenal fan that I know, well, quite a few of them, to be honest. Aubameyang doesn't get service. Arsenal lack creativity. And when I heard Ian Wright talk about Arsenal should have went for Jack Grealish, and they honestly should have, because you imagine Grealish every week putting it on a plate for Aubameyang. He'd get 20, 25 a season. You know, yes, we can't discount what Aubameyang has done in the previous seasons for Arsenal. But right now, he's not getting the service. He hasn't got the players around him to give him the chances. I feel like at the moment with Arsenal is that the reason why Aubameyang is doing so poor is because there's so much pressure on him to score the limited amount of chances that he gets. When he does get them, he flops it, and that's pretty much Arsenal at the moment. So I think they're going to lose this game, if I'm being honest. I think if we actually compare the sides, I actually think Wolves have a better team than them, which is mental. But I actually think Wolves have a better side, and they've got more depth as well. I think Wolves have got more to offer. And this could be the game that Adama Traore gets them roller skates out and single-handedly ruins a team. And I think it might be Arsenal. So, yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 Wolves on that one.
Yeah, and then we'll move on to Monday. We've got Leicester-Fulham.
Games only on Monday.
So Leicester-Fulham. I'm going to go nice and simple. Leicester need to bounce back from that terrible performance at Anfield. So I'm going to go 2-0 Leicester.
I'm going to go 1-0 Leicester. I think Fulham will put up a good fight, but I think Leicester will have too much for them, and I think Jamie Vardy will score.
Yeah, and then the final game of game week 10 is West Ham against Villa. I'm gonna go. This is going to be a good game, and I think much like last game week, it could be one of the best games of the week. Obviously, the very last game, like Wolves Southampton was. It's. I'm going to go.
I know you want to go for a West Ham win. I know you do. I know
Do you know
you
what?
too well,
I'm
mate.
going to respect you, and I'm not going to say that you're going to lose. But what I will say is, I think you'll draw. I think you'll draw 2
Okay.
game. I think
Do you know what?
West Ham with firepower like they've got, they seem to be, in fantastic form. Yourselves needing a win, obviously after the Brighton game and your recent results. I know you beat Arsenal, but look, I think, I'll go with 2-2 draw in that game. 2-2 draw.
I think Villa West Ham is going to boil down to if West Ham can keep Jack Grealish quiet. I would love to see Conor Hourihane come back into the team for Villa with Barkley
Our
out
goal
injured.
legend.
I'd love to see Conor Hourihane come back. I think he offers us something a little bit different, and I think he didn't deserve to get dropped in the first place, but obviously with Barkley playing so well, he lost his place in the team. The thing is that I find difficult about this game is that I just have that weird feeling again that Villa are going to win. Villa are this season the form team away from home. 3 wins, 3 games, 7 goals scored, none conceded. We've beat Leicester away, Fulham away, and what was the other one now? Arsenal away. So we haven't beat any mugs either away from home apart from Fulham potentially. West Ham have got some very good players. Fornals looks to be starting to produce, which is good. Declan Rice is a good player, holds the midfield pretty well. I'm a big fan of Souček as well. I think he's brilliant. Jared Bowen, class act. I would have loved for Villa to have got him, another one that I think we've missed out on and missed the trick out on. And they look good at the back as well. In terms of a prediction, this is difficult because I always want to back my Villa boys, but I do, right. I'm going to predict Villa to win, but I do think that it could be a draw. I don't think we'll lose, but I don't think we'll concede either.
0-0.
I'm going to go with a 1-0 Villa win, and I'm going to say that Jack Grealish is going to do what he did last season and score a vital goal for us.
Could do.
I think he's going to win it for us. I really do.
Yeah, I don't think you're too wrong there. So that is obviously the Premier League covered, both reviewing the games that have gone by and sort of previewing them. I think it's probably a good time to mention that unfortunately, Toronto are out of the MLS playoffs. I watched it, pretty much early hours of Saturday morning, and they lost 1-0 to Nashville at home. To be honest, exactly Nashville, exactly. But yeah, no. In terms of the performance, I know Morgan, you probably didn't watch it, so I'll only wrap this up quickly. But Toronto got saved, I think, 3 times by the offside flag. I think Nashville scored 3 other occasions, and they're all offside, and then the goal that was scored was quite poor. Someone, I don't know who it was, took a shot. It's a good save by Westberg, to be fair, but then no Toronto players following it in, and Matey has a tap in. So poor defending, really, and I don't think we really offered much in the game going forward. So yeah, unfortunately, Toronto won't be winning the MLS this season. We'll have to go again next season, and unfortunately, we won't be speaking about the MLS anymore because quite frankly, who cares now? Toronto's out. Who cares? And we'll cover it in terms of the final because it is a final, so we'll cover that. But yeah, in terms of that, I guess the only other thing to mention is unfortunately yesterday we did hear the sad news that Diego Maradona had passed away at the age of 60. What a player, Morgan! What a player he was.
Yeah, I have quite an interesting view on Maradona, because look, he was a fantastic player, absolutely amazing footballer, and you can see from the icons that have come out and spoke about him how much he has revolutionised the game. And even when England, what happened with England when, let's be honest here, the hand of God, and he cheated against us and cheated us out of a major competition, it just shows how powerful of a person that he was, because even English fans, everyone was like, wow, we have just lost an absolute icon of the game. So obviously condolences to his family and friends, and RIP to another legend, and it's George Best as well.
Yeah.
Happened on the same day. Two icons of football being took away from us, one in the morning, one announced in the evening. So two icons of football that have been took away from us, and two players that are going to be generally missed. And the last thing we're going to move on to, it's back. Fantasy shout of the week and player of the week from last week. So, Braden, I need two names, fantasy shout and player of the week, please.
I'll do fantasy shout of the week first. Do you know what? I'll be good. I won't go with Bruno Fernandes this week, despite the fact he's on absolute flames. I said him last time, so I'll try and steer away from that. My fantasy player of the week would probably have to be. I'll go Calvert-Lewin. I think he's scoring goals again. He's scoring goals. So yeah, I'd go with him for my fantasy player. He's in my team anyways. It's whether I decide to make him skip or not, or stick with Bruno, because Bruno's been returning for me as captain. So I don't know whether, if it ain't broke, don't fix it at the minute for me. But I'll have to think about that one. And then player of the week last week. I'm gonna go with. Do you know what? I'm gonna go Calvert-Lewin again. Two goals. Completely influential in Everton and how well they've done this season. And like you said, he's banging goals again. So I'll go Calvert-Lewin for both. Bit boring, but Calvert-Lewin for both for me.
Okay. Fantasy shout of the week for me, I'm going to go with Callum Wilson in Crystal Palace Newcastle. I think in a game that's going to be quite tight, I think he could score the winner, potentially get a few, to be honest, with Palace being without Wilf Zaha. But please don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure with COVID guidelines, he's not about. And my player of last week, I am going to... Oh, it's difficult because there was a lot of good performances.
Sam Johnston.
Sammy Johnston is up there, going to be honest. Incredible performance in goal.
Learned from the best. He learned from Dave and Romero. He learned from the best.
Well, I think it was his time at Villa that revolutionised him, to be honest, mate. Do you know what? Player of the week, I am going to go with Luca Dean from Everton, not just because he's got an inform on FIFA, but if you watch the game against Fulham, he was incredible at left back or left wing back. Gave him a real attacking outlet going forward. I think he's such an underrated player as well. I think he's incredible for Everton as well, to have a player like him at their disposal in the left back position. So yeah, I'm going to go with Luca Dean for player of the week. Angelo Ogbonna was very close, but I am going to go Luca Dean and get Callum Wilson in your fantasy teams if you haven't already, because I think he's going to be a bagsman against Crystal Palace.
Yeah, no, I think there's some good shouts there. But yeah, I think that concludes episode 3 of the football podcast. So Morgan, once again, thank you for joining me. Been a pleasure as always.
Thank you. It's been great to come on, and hopefully we can see Villa and United get wins. Hopefully I don't come on next week and I'm talking about another VAR Villa decision.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Well, yeah. Hopefully Villa, United, and Plymouth are in the mud a little bit as well. So hopefully we can get back to winning ways. But anyway, if you have enjoyed the video and if you stayed this long, please make sure you like. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow the Twitter as well. We will be updating you with different topics and different football news as we go. Also on the video, if you want to comment any topics you want us to talk about, please do, because there'll probably be an episode coming up soon where we answer your questions, or if you've got any topics you want us to talk about, or any debates you want us to have, then we'll do that rather than just keeping the reviews going. We'll try and mix it up a bit. So please comment. Please let us know what you want us to do, because this is not just our channel. It's for the people as well. So yeah, no. Apart from that, Morgan, unless there's anything you want to say, we'll sign off there.
Up the Villa.
There you go. Up the Villa, up the United, and up the Argyle. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.